you want to hear my? It's eerily accurate.
Okay.
If I can pull this off the way that I did the other night, this is an eerily accurate Elmo impression.
I feel that you preempted that with a lot, and that gives me pause when people like preempt their thing with like, "Hey, listen," but I
well, because you
can't
don't know.
not.
This is the thing about an impression: you don't know what's gonna fucking come out of your mouth, right? You think you in your head, either in the past or in your head, right? You're like, "Oh yeah, I got it," and then it starts to come out, and you're like, "Oh no!" And by then, it's already out of your mouth, and you've like, you can't pull that thing back.
Well, I can't not hear it. So please, please.
Okay. Here, I'll mute my mic while I warm up just for a second, and
Okay.
you while I do that, you tell me the sort of topic you want to hear Elmo talk about.
All right. What do I want to? I would love to hear Elmo's opinions on Jackson Pollock and splatter art. I would love to know his opinion. I bet it's a really, really, really good opinion because we all know that Elmo is very loving and very open to different and new ideas. So I'm looking forward to this.
Elmo thinks the abstract expressionist movement is bullshit. Elmo,
oh my God.
Elmo looks at drip paintings, and Elmo looked at a drip painting, and he thinks, oh, that's what the toilet looks like when I'm done using it. And I just learned. Elmo just learned how to use
We're starting the music now because I am so offended, Elmo.
It's Elmo who's saying this shit. I didn't say this shit. I like Jackson Pollock.
No, I see how it is.
I like Jackson Pollock. Elmo's.
I hate him. I wish that he falls into his own paintings and drowns in the paint.
Elmo!
Jesus Christ, man.
Elmo! You know, I never liked Elmo.
Elmo hates Funky Island too. Elmo thinks Guybrush Threepwood's a bitch.
I have. Whoa,
Elmo! You do not know guys, your audience, man.
Listen, we're gonna be right back. We're going to.
Sorry.
Matt, could you get the burlap sack in the back, if you would, please?
Elmo doesn't want to go back.
Everyone. Hey.
I was going for it too.
Matt was going for it. Okay, well, I think you should let me go for it because I will not be stepped upon by any man.
Yeah, go for it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Save Your Game, the highly feminist gaming narrative podcast starring me and only me, Pushing Up Roses.
I was here's why I was trying to come in on it, because I wanted to start by apologizing to everybody for Elmo.
There is no apology that could make up for that. He said he accused Guybrush of being a little bitch and said that Jackson Pollock should die in his own paint, and he's already dead. It's too soon, Elmo.
Elmo, come on, man. Yeah,
have some respect for the dead.
We won't invite Elmo back on.
Okay. We can invite Grover, though. He's solid.
I don't know Grover, but maybe if you know Grover, then you could invite Grover on.
Or like Pepe the Prawn. I know you don't like Pepe the Prawn.
I don't like Pepe the Prawn.
I like that his his tagline or his catchphrase is just okay. I don't know why that cracks. It's so simple.
I think that's funny. I think the fact that he calls the Muppets the Muffins is pretty funny.
The Muffins.
Like I think there's redeeming qualities for Pepe the Prawn, but yeah. Pepe the Prawn to me signals the decline of the well, here's what I'll say. No, I think Rizzo the Rat signals the decline of the Muppets, but the Muppets stayed good for a while after Rizzo the Rat. But I think it's where Rizzo the Rat sort of signals where they stop giving their characters they stop putting the same level of care and nuance into their characters.
I love, 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 love Rizzo the Rat.
I like Rizzo the Rat.
I think I am most like Rizzo the Rat in Muppet Christmas Carol.
I like Rizzo the Rat. I don't love Rizzo the Rat.
You're wrong. This take is wrong.
I dislike Pepe the Prawn, but I don't hate Pepe the Prawn.
Well, who's your favorite Muppet then? We need to get this out in the air and open.
I mean, this is, and again, if I'm talking about nuance, right? Like that's the thing that I like about a Muppet character is that there's like understated levels to their character. I think Kermit's the best Muppet.
I would have a hard time disagreeing with you. I love Kermit. I love Kermit the Frog.
He's got
for
texture.
Being a protagonist, for being like a main. He's great.
Because he's kind of a dick sometimes. Like he's the face of the organization and he's like the main, but he's also kind of a dick sometimes.
Yeah.
And he goes through moods. Sometimes he's so impatient.
Yeah.
With people. And sometimes he's so caring and patient. It depends who he's talking to and what else is going on. It's just like such a he's such like just a real guy.
The real guy. And he's also like a big dreamer. And my favorite songs from the Muppets are sung by Kermit. Rainbow Connection, but also It's Not Easy Being Green, and that song will make me cry 100%. I love that song.
It's not
Kermit.
easy. Yes.
I think we all know that I'm Marjorie, the all-knowing trash monster from the Fraggles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I am a Kermit, right? Like, I think I'm probably more of a Gonzo.
You're a Fozzie.
A Fozzie, huh?
You're a Fozzie, yeah.
I think I'm weirder than Fozzie.
Yeah, you're somewhere in between Fozzie and Gonzo.
Okay, yeah, I think if Fozzie, if there's a... if there's like a spectrum, and on one end of the spectrum is on Fozzie, and the other end of the spectrum is Gonzo, I am somewhere in the middle area.
I'm like if Rizzo and Uncle Deadly had a child. Just a fucking abomination. Oh, by the way, I know we went into talking about the Muppets. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Happy 2025. It's good to be back.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this new year?
Terrible. But here's the thing. I'm making up for it by throwing myself into art. This is the year of the artist.
Oh, of the artist. Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
it's the year of just generally. All artists
general
are going to thrive this year.
I hope so.
Okay, there we go.
Listen, I took my first wheel throwing class as pottery ceramics class. It is exceedingly difficult. It is way more difficult than you can ever imagine. But I am determined to make a pot. It's my only goal.
Okay.
And I'll send it to you.
I think you'll get what, me or all the listeners?
No, you specifically.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying every single one of the listeners would get a
They
pot.
might. I might throw a lot of wonky pots and have nothing to do with them.
You're like, okay, I have 1,500 pots.
Who wants one?
I need to get rid of these things. Everybody send me an email with your address.
I will charge you only $2. Because that's what they're worth.
I think you could have been more strategic about this, though, right? Since this
You're right. I
should
charge like $100. I don't know what I was thinking.
Since this is the year of your second art awakening, or probably like 14th art awakening, right? Like you've probably had plenty. You should have declared this the year that art dies, right? So then instead of, because if it's the year of the artist, that's a lot of competition.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But if you are the only artist in the year that art dies, then think about the capital gains, baby.
Art is dead. Buy my art. Thank you.
Art is dead. Art is dead. Hey, did you notice how all artists suck now? Anyway, I make good art. Come by.
Long live the artist. All right, look at me. I mean, I think more importantly, it's going to be the year of adventure games.
Yeah, there's some good ones coming out this year, and
there sure are.
I think we okay. So let's tell everybody about what this episode is.
Okay, let's tell them. You tell them.
Oh, me. Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about this is sort of like a year in review. We talked about doing a game of the year sort of thing, but I think we're going to do something a little less formal than that. I think we're going to talk about all the good games that we played this year that weren't released in 2024. We're going to talk about some of our top games, and I think we'll kind of. I have at least a top 5. Would you say you have at least a top 5?
I do. I have a top 5. We can definitely do a top 5.
Okay, so then we'll talk about our top. We'll talk about a bunch of games that came out this year that we loved, and then we'll talk about maybe what our top 5 is. And that's all, that'll be enough to wrap up. This is our way of wrapping up 2024. And getting ready for, again, what's going to be a actually pretty fucking good year for adventure games in 2025.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, but since, a lot of people are doing wrap-ups especially for gaming, and I figure we should have one for adventure games. And like you said, and just some of the games that we've played. What I want to talk about, like what's made our 2024 year great with new games and old games.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yay!
Okay, so why don't we? Oh, okay. So we got an email.
We did?
Yeah, we got one.
Sorry.
No, we got an email from somebody who gave me a present.
A present?
Mm-hmm. This present is it is a table that contains. I roll 2, well, I guess 50-sided dice. That's not. I don't know. Does that exist? I'm sure it does. I'm sure somebody's made one.
I don't know if it does, but
I'm just gonna use like a random number generator.
Okay.
And it gives me a first word and a second word for a Swanky Maximino.
That's great. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So. Before we start talking about today, the games that we played in 2024, not necessarily released in 2024, why don't you throw on Junkie Cookerino? And we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Save Your Game. I'm Pushing Up Roses. I don't know if I actually officially introduced my co-host because I said the show stars me. It doesn't just star me. This is my co-host, Matt Aukamp. Hey Matt.
Hey, how's it going? I want to say thanks to Zia, aka the Curious Canadian, for that. What she calls dicey rollerino.
I love it.
I will be using this every episode.
Oh my god, thank you that's so funny and thoughtful, and I like that kind of stuff. I like it when people like things from our shows or things that we've said. You know what I'm trying to say here.
While I'm in the email, I also want to say we actually have a really good opportunity here, Roses. This Hanson Swansen says he can unlock our YouTube success. He can get us 250 YouTube views for 88 cents or 500 YouTube comments for $25.
Matt,
yeah.
Look at me. Look me in the eyeballs.
Okay, I'm doing it.
That's a scam.
Okay,
Please
I sent
tell
him
me
$14,000.
Oh God! You didn't give him any passwords, right?
He said he needed them.
No.
He said it's just a trial.
What? He said what?
And if for
God.
$14,000 we like his work, then we can pay him another $30,000 to keep doing it.
Matt, our budget.
We don't have one of those. We don't have any money.
Okay, well, we may or may be back with a future episode. It depends on if we're
Hanson
bankrupt.
Swansen might be back hosting our podcast from now on because he's got all our passwords. Hi, everybody. It is the Save Your Game podcast with Hanson Swansen. I'm here to talk to you all about YouTube success.
That's the fucking worst. The absolute worst. And no, we're not buying Get out of here.
I know. Can you believe it? All right. So
that's wonderful.
Do you want to start talking about some of the games that you've played in 2024?
I would love to.
That you absolutely loved.
I'm very excited about it. And the entire reason that these games even came up and that were on my radar is because of this podcast. So,
hell yeah.
Because of either we're talking or because we've gotten emails and recommendations and all that. So I would like to talk about the game that affected me the most that I played in 2024. Yeah. Well, I want to mention it because we have talked about it. And that's the last. This is going great. And that's
we're rusty. We got to shake it off. And we started with Elmo. So we really didn't do ourselves any favors here.
It's The Last Door.
Yeah.
That has quickly become one of my favorite games of all time and one of the scariest games I've ever played. And for whatever reason, it got to me in 2024. I played it in 2024. I had known about it prior to that, but this is the year I finally got around to playing it for the podcast and for myself as well. And I think it's so special. I loved that game. That game made me want to play more games in 2024. So it was a great proponent for adventure games for me.
Yeah, that game was released back in 2016. The first
13,
I think was in 2013, and the second was in 2016, maybe.
Yeah.
And they released by the Game Kitchen. Mm-hmm. We talked about it on episode 11. Yeah, it's just like a spooky, real chunky pixel art game, and that game it was really good. It was a really fun, and spooky little adventure.
Would you like me to name a couple more, and then you can go, or do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why don't you
go? Another game that I absolutely fell in love with was the excavation of Hobb's Barrow. We did a fantastic deep dive on, if I may say so myself.
We may say so ourselves.
I think it was good too.
Sorry.
Elmo, the fuck up. Anyway, sorry.
Why did he say? And he used a first-person pronoun. Something's wrong with this guy.
Something's wrong with Elmo.
I think I hit him too hard when I put him in the sack.
Is that the scammer? Are we being scammed? Where did that 14,000 go?
Elmo's name's Hanson Swansen.
What the fuck?
Hanson Swansen. Hanson Swansen's going to become a tertiary character of our podcast.
We're building out our universe. This is, if we took a break, so this is technically season 2. So we are building out, season 2 is when you build out the universe.
Oh, that's true. This is universe building right here.
We have Elmo and Hanson Swansen. Okay.
But yeah, Hobb's Barrow.
Yeah,
that was a game I was hesitant to play because the screen caps look strange. But as we said in the podcast, in motion, it is a fantastic game. And the other game I want to shout out is it's not something I think we did a true deep dive. I think we talked about it with Francisco, with Grundislav.
Okay,
and that's Disco Elysium.
Oh,
I found that game in 2024. And these are all games I want to say that really pushed me back into the adventure game genre. Even Disco Elysium, which is more of an RPG adventure situation. Didn't think I would like it, but it really gave me a sense of what adventure games could be and what I like about them. And yeah, it was a good year for me experiencing adventure games.
Yeah, speaking of what adventure games could be, and by the way, we talked about Excavation of Hobb's Barrow way back in episode 4. You guys want to check it out. And we talked about Disco Elysium with Francisco Gonzalez back in episode 15. Speaking of what adventure games can be. Dreams in the Witch House, which we talked about in
Wow,
episode
yeah.
24. Holy cow, that did some things I didn't expect.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
Matt sold it to me as we got to play this adventure game, and that is not what happened. That game is involved.
And we each played it like 4 times through.
We did. We did.
Because the way it branches is so interesting, and just it's one of those games that's just kind of fun to replay and see how different choices affect different things. And it was also another cool, fun, spooky story.
Very, yeah.
And speaking of, on that same sort of topic, PARANORMASIGHT.
That's another one that I was kind of shocked by, because it's more in that, interactive fiction, not interactive fiction. What am I trying to say here, Matt?
Visual novel.
Visual novel. Thank you. Didn't think I would like it that much, and then I binged it for 8 hours.
Yeah, right. That was an episode 35, part of Spooky Month. We played PARANORMASIGHT, The 7 Mysteries of Honjo, and it's a legitimately scary visual novel, at least for the first, say, half of it.
Yeah.
I remember, I'll never forget playing it on I had just gotten the new Steam Deck, with the OLED screen.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
black is black on an OLED screen.
Very frightening.
And I played it in the dark at night by myself on my OLED in bed, and holy shit, like I will never forget how scared that made me.
Do you remember the text I sent you?
I don't.
It said something like, "I am so mad at you. I am terrified." I remember starting up PARANORMASIGHT, and I had to turn it off at first. Like, I was so scared. And I wasn't even on an OLED. I was in my studio with lights on everywhere. My cat's next to me. It's fine. But, it's in first person. I think that lends itself to horror games very well. And it does this thing where it makes you turn around to see something. And that is always scary in a game. Always.
And so you turn around and you get yourself all psyched up for it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then you just already know, oh, when I turn back around is when it's going to be there.
Yeah. I actually turned it off before I turned around. I had to psych myself up.
Yeah.
To turn the camera around.
I think
truly scary.
The only time I've ever been that scared with a piece of media is when I watched Haunting of Hill House on Netflix.
Oh yeah, that was scary. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very scary. Yeah. But do you think we kind of like played too many scary games this year?
Well, that's what I was about to say, because the next game that I want to talk about is Nightmare Frames.
We got into a little bit of a groove, didn't we? Like,
we did.
I noticed that when Halloween came around, we were like, "Oh fuck!"
We played them all already.
We played all these scary games, and I don't know. Maybe there's just more scary adventure games than normal right now. It's definitely a hot genre.
Yeah.
But that does happen. So I found that when we wanted to do like Halloween, we were like,
Yeah. Well,
Hugo's House of Horrors?
Nightmare Frames we played earlier this year. In episode 19, and it's by Postmodern Adventures. They also released a game called An English Haunting this year that we may or may not be talking about later. And it's just it's a game about a dude, a horror film writer in the 1980s who gets kind of wrapped into his own horror story.
Oh man.
It's really...
You know how I feel about Nightmare Frames.
Yeah.
You're the one who recommended that to me. So that was very like observant of you. You're just like, I think you would like this game.
Yeah.
And then I loved it. I streamed it. I played it like 2 or 3 times. It's just got something in the atmosphere. It's just something. It captures the 80s in a maybe not the most realistic way, right? But in that nostalgic way, in that Miami Vice way.
in the way you remember it, not the way it is.
Yes, yeah,
Not
the way you
it actually
feel
is.
it.
Yeah.
We're here for the vibes only.
I mean,
That's Nightmare Frames.
It has it has skeezy porn directors. It has schlocky horror exploitation films. It has cocaine and homeless people. Like, it is everything.
A cult. It has a cult in it.
A cult. Everything that is in 80s media is like everything that was over exaggerated in the 80s is in that game, and I like. It really works too.
It works, and the music is all synthwave. It's very pleasant. I feel that it's very pleasant to listen to. I love the story. I was really impressed by Nightmare Frames, and I'm glad that I had never heard of it. At least I had heard of Disco and The Last Door and Hobbs. I'd heard of those games. This was completely new for me, so that was nice. It's always nice.
It's put postmodern adventures on our radar forever.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I will play anything they release forever.
Yeah, same. Same. Good job. Do
you want to say do you want to tell everybody your last one?
Sure.
And I will then, and I'll say my last one.
I don't think anyone will be surprised by this at all. It is Strange Horticulture. I am very late to this game. Everyone told me about it. I kind of get into that kind of defiant mindset where if I'm getting too many suggestions or recommendations, then I won't do it because I'm kind of a brat. I don't want to do that. I want to conform to that.
Yeah.
So
don't tell me who to be, Mom.
I ended up doing a review on it because I liked it so much. And what I took away from it is that when I found it on Steam, it looked unremarkable to me. It looked very simple, very unremarkable. But in playing
a mobile game, right? Like, it looks just like
it does. You're right. But in playing it, I found it so interesting and in depth, and it's spooky. And you get to water plants.
It feels literary, doesn't it? Like, there's something about it that feels like there is so much here. And I think that might be a little bit more feeling than actuality, but I do think there is a lot of layered story and interesting things to discover there.
Yeah, I've really loved it, and there's no release date yet, but because of this game, I will be looking forward to Strange Antiquities.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Strange Horticulture made me really follow that dev, and I'm so excited for anything they put out in the future.
Imagine if they knock Strange Antiquities out of the park. We are just going to be like salivating outside the door of Bad Viking. Like, when's your next one? When's your next one?
It's gonna get annoying.
My last one actually will be a surprise because I've never talked about it on the show before, but it has taken up. It took up almost the entire break.
Yeah.
I played Dave the Diver.
Nice.
And holy shit, is that game so, like, it was so my shit, right? Like, I just got so sucked in. It's got a real, okay, you know how Dredge and Dave the Diver came out at the same time? Roughly.
Did it really? Okay, yeah, I somewhat remember that.
And people kind of almost took sides. It felt like it's like, oh, did you play Dredge or did you play Dave the Diver? And here's how I feel. I feel like Dredge is the Strange Horticulture of the two games.
I do too. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
And Dave the Diver is the Stardew Valley of the two games.
Absolutely.
Where Dave the Diver, you have so much to manage and maintain, you could keep playing it forever. Now, I will say that the straight up fishing loop does get. I'll just very quickly explain. You dive into the water and you fish with a harpoon. So you shoot fish, and if you do enough damage to them, you can capture them. And then you go back up to the surface and you serve them in a sushi restaurant where you have to run back and forth and serve customers, like, I don't know, Diner Dash or some shit. But there's so much other stuff. Like, you get a farm, you basically play Balatro in the game. You meet an underwater society, you upgrade your weapons, you get you get two things. You get like a vegetable farm and a fish growing farm or fish breeding farm. You get there's like all these mini games. There's just so much to do, and it's beautiful, cute little pixel art, and it's fun. It's great. Dave the
Aw.
Diver.
I know, I've heard such good things about it. I have played Dredge, and I really like Dredge. I think they're wildly different. Yeah, you're right. Dredge is like the strange horticulture. Dave the Diver is like Stardew, or even it even sounds as stressful as Graveyard Keeper, where there's so
Okay.
much stuff
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. I believe you. I
Yeah.
played Graveyard Keeper a little bit years ago, and
It's fucking
it just didn't hook
overwhelming.
me.
It didn't
So
for me either at first, and then I binged it, as you do.
so those are I think our games of non-2024 that
Yeah.
really surprised us this year and really delighted us this year. What do you say we chuck back on just a quick little dip into Spanky Druggerino. Whoa, sounds like a good Saturday night.
All right,
we
let's go.
Jump into Spanky Druggerino. We come right back and we talk about our best games of 2024.
All right, let's do it.
And welcome back to Save Your Game. I'm Matt. This is Roses.
Hi.
Hey, Roses, this was a fucking good year
Yeah.
for, you know what I'm going to say? Specifically indie games.
Yeah.
Because there were some interesting like AAA games, like people, especially late in the year, people were talking a lot about Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, what else did people talk about this year? People talked about that Prince of Persia, Metroidvania, or like Metaphor
behind.
Refantasio. There was a Final Fantasy remake this year. Like,
What is there not a Final Fantasy?
I know. So I think there were some at least interesting AAA games, but where shit was really popping off was in the indie game space.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I know I played a lot more of these than you did.
Mm-hmm.
So we both came up with lists of some of the games we want to talk about. We each have about 10. And then we have our top 5. But I also have a couple runner-ups.
All right.
That I want to chat about. And if we have time, I might also have some honorable mentions. But I want to tell you about some games that I played this year that fucking ruled.
All right.
So the first one, and some of these I've talked about on the show before, and so I won't get too deep into them. But the first one I'm going to say is The Abandoned Planet.
Yeah. You've mentioned that several times on the show.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. It takes kind of like the idea of Myst, right? Walking around an alien environment and trying to figure out what the machinery is and how to use it, and like things like you have to sort of decipher both technology and culture at the same time, with very little in the way of clues. That said, there is a talking head that's on screen the whole time that does give you some clues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little easier than, say, Myst. But it's by Dexter Team Games. It was released in August of this year. And it's, called The Abandoned Planet. And it's just really cool. The pixel art is really pretty. And
really beautiful, yeah.
It has this first-person logic and exploration puzzle sort of a mechanic to it that is really, really rad. Next, I want to talk about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, just real quick.
Yeah, because you played it enough.
I talked about that a lot. It didn't quite make like my top 10, because it does have some flaws, and there are some parts of it that I found kind of boring, but it was released in May by Simogo, and it has so many interesting ideas. Didn't pull them all off as well as it maybe wanted to. It's mostly black and white and a little bit of red, and you're just it's clearly inspired a little bit by like Resident Evil, the way you're kind of walking around with tank controls and
Yeah.
walking around like some spooky mansion, and everything's a little pixely.
Yeah.
But it's all just so many puzzles. It's so many puzzles. It's
Yeah,
so many
I've seen your
puzzles.
notes.
Yeah, they look insane.
Yeah.
Because it's so many puzzles.
You look like a crazy person.
So I've talked about that in previous episodes. So next I want to talk about Tactical Breach Wizards. Have you heard of this game?
I have not heard of that one, no.
So you remember earlier this year I got really into or earlier last year I got really into Marvel Midnight Suns.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I talked about it plenty. Well, so this was released in August by Suspicious Developments, and it is one of these turn-based tactical combat games where you control a team of magic users who all have their own shit. Like, oh man, okay, there's a woman she's like a necromancer, but so she serves as your healer. So if you get hurt and she wants to heal you,
yeah,
she shoots you dead and then brings you back to life.
Oh.
and then there's shit like there's a guy who shoots spells out of a sniper rifle that he carries.
Is this a comedy-ish?
It is not a comedy, but it is very funny.
Okay.
It is very cleverly written. There's an interesting story. The characters are hilarious. There's a character called, I think, Steve the Traffic Wizard, who you just keep encountering. He's like an enemy, and you keep encountering, and every time you encounter him, the characters are so annoyed with this guy. And this is a bit of a spoiler, but in the last mission you see him, the achievement you get is for beating the level without even bothering to kill Steve the Traffic Wizard. To deliver the ultimate insult.
Nice.
And it's very bantery, very character. It seems weird to think of a character-driven
like tactical game,
but this one really does it, and it does it in this interesting way too, where you can you can play it at your own pace. So if you just want to keep doing the missions, you can always return to a mission and the dialogue will replay.
Okay.
Or you can skip it if you don't want the dialogue to replay.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I know. But you can return to a mission and play through the dialogue if you skipped it before. And the in-between dialogue, like the stuff like the characters talk about in between missions, is just in the menu, and you can click on it anytime you want.
We may have to talk about this game more in depth.
It's really good, but it is pretty much a tactical game where you are moving a certain number of squares, using a certain number of moves, trying to take out all the other enemies and prevent damage to yourself and your own team. But it's really thoughtful, really smart.
Yeah.
Is it intriguing you?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is. I don't hate tactical games, so
okay.
I might have to take a look at that.
Hell yeah, I would talk about it again for sure. There's a lot to talk about in the story, and especially in the characters. The characters are so lovable. Another game is a game I played just again over this winter break. Is this game trying to kill me? It was released in November by Stately Snail, and you're in a 3D environment, first person, and you get trapped in a room and sat at a computer where you play basically this little pixel game adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much like a dungeon crawler, only instead of combat, it's all puzzles. And you come to certain puzzles and you're like, I cannot figure out how on earth I would solve this puzzle. So you stand up from the computer and you look around the actual room you're in. And you might have to solve a puzzle in your room to affect something in the game. Or you might have to solve a puzzle in the game to affect something in your room. Or something as simple as in the game, you need to hit statues in a certain order. and pictures of the statues with numbers are hidden in the actual 3D room that you're
So it's like meta in a non-annoying way.
in. Yeah, I think so. It reminds me a little bit of Inscription in that way.
Okay.
But it's not nearly as good as Inscription. I'll say that. That's why it's only in my honorable mentions. But it was really interesting and really fun. The thing that I think held it back is number one, it's short, it's like 2 hours, and number two, there are some segments that are timed or with death that are so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
You're rushing around a 3D environment trying to find a clue to solve a puzzle within like 30 seconds, and you're just like, and then you die and you start over and you have to run around the room again, right?
Oh,
it's
no.
so frustrating. But is this game trying to kill me? Indica, which I've talked about on the show,
which we thought was a horror game, but
I
is
know.
not.
Turned out to be a really deep exploration of the merits of of how video games and Catholicism both ascribe to you a set of points and tell you that they're significant so that you get quote unquote the good ending. And how much does that really matter?
I'm glad that this is one of your runner-ups because it really does seem very unique.
It is. It was. By odd meter, it was released in May, and it's most of the game you're playing in third person, and again, you're a little nun named Indica, and you're solving atmospheric sort of platforming puzzles. You know, like, oh, find the ladder, put it against the house, jump into the house, find a collectible, jump down, unlock the gate, that kind of thing. But every now and then, you have to converse with the devil in your head.
Right, I remember
manipulate environments, and the devil just mocks your faith and your choices incessantly in a really deep, biting way. But you have to commune with him to solve your puzzles, to move forward. So you are a nun with a demon in her head, being kidnapped and escorted around by a escaped convict who believes he has God in his head.
Wow.
Very interesting.
That's a very intriguing premise.
Yeah. The gameplay, not always fun, but always interesting.
Yeah.
And my last runner-up is by Bureau 81. It was released in July. It's called The Operator. I don't think I've talked about this game on the show yet, but it is... it's one of those games where you're basically sitting at a computer, kind of like Her Story or something like that, and experiencing the story as if, you know, like an immersive sim, I guess is what they call that. And it's also an investigation game. So you're using basically FBI kind of tools, like face recognition software and a names database and video scrubbing software to help FBI agents. I don't think it's called the FBI, but whatever the fuck it's called. Who call you and talk to you and tell you like, oh, I need to figure out who this guy is, or I need to figure out who this address is.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. A bigger sort of more metatextual story starts to evolve. Maybe not metatextual, just like something. A conspiratorial story starts to evolve.
Right.
Not everybody you're talking to and working with is who you think they are.
You know what? You have mentioned this game before, because that sounds very familiar to me. It's like there's like a twist.
There's the twist is apparent pretty early on though. Like you know a twist is coming. But yeah, it's an interesting game. You're mostly using this like computer interface the whole time, so you can sort of pretend that you're there and you're like a little hacker or something. So those are my runner-ups. I know that's a lot, but fuck, was this a good year for games.
Yeah, it was good, and Matt played like all of them.
I know. So I've just talked for a long time. Do you have any questions, anything you want to bring up before we get into our top games?
No, I'm ready to just get in. I'm ready. I'm just ready to
Okay.
get into it.
Because on our list, I'm the first person talking again. So I just wanted to give you a moment to address our listeners.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm here too. How's it going? I'm an artist. I'm from Chicago. I like video games. All right, take it, Matt.
Hell yeah. All right. So top games. Now we're into these are our top games.
These are our tops. Here we go.
And I think this is the first few are not really ordered, but this is basically my top 10 of the year.
Yeah, I would say our top 5 is a bit ordered or is ordered, and anything after is random. It's in the top 10 somewhere.
So the first game I want to bring up, I mentioned this a while back.
Yeah.
And it didn't hook me as much as it would later. Like I thought it was interesting, but I didn't really fall in love with it as much as I did a little while, like when I picked it back up a couple weeks ago. It's Little Guardsman.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, and honestly, it looks great. Honestly,
yeah, it's by Hilltop Studios. It was released way back in January.
Oh God!
And you are a 12-year-old who gets put in charge of a castle gate in like this medieval town, and you have to, very much like Papers, Please. You are following a set of criteria to either admit or not admit people who come up to the gate. And you're using tools to interrogate them or your own wits. It looks very much like a cartoony point and click adventure.
Yeah.
It
does. It looks very 2D. Yeah.
It's very funny. It's very charming. It's very sweet and cute. But what really sold me on it eventually is that the story goes places you would not expect.
Oh, wonderful.
Or maybe, I don't know if you wouldn't expect. It's stuff that's pretty rote for a fantasy.
Sure.
Like this is all playing on fantasy tropes, but you don't. Your job at the gate changes in a way I didn't expect it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I expected to just be doing that the whole game, but you end up doing some other stuff at the gate too. That's interesting. And it's cool. It gives you a star rating after each person. And you can rewind time a certain number of times to just try it again. Yeah. And you can always rewind an entire level. So what I would do, it's actually kind of hard to get it all perfect, because you have 3 actions you can take for every person, and sometimes what is wrong about the people is not clued at all. You just have to take a random shot. I'm like, all right, I'll use a metal detector on this guy. Oh, holy shit, he has a bomb on him or whatever. And that was a little frustrating until I developed a rhythm, which was, okay, I'll just play a level using my wits and my intuition, and then I'll open up a guide and go back through the level and consult the guide.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because you do, like, it is that sort of thing, because it gives you a star ranking, you always want to get it perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would. I am very much a perfectionist when it comes to stuff like that.
And it's always telling you that telltale thing. It's like, this will have an effect on the story.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, now I have to make the right choices always.
Yeah.
Although I think it still would have been interesting if I had failed, but
oh, for sure. I'm sure it would have been.
I'm a little too, what do they call that? Type A for that. So that's Little Guardsman.
Yeah. I'm glad that made your top 10. That's nice.
Yeah. I was pretty happy about it. All right, what do you got?
We have some overlap, I think, with our top 10. I don't know if this one is in your overlap, but I put Death of the Reprobate, which is a Joe Richardson game. It was really only the second or even maybe the first one I had played in its entirety. And I just thought it was so fun. It's so absurd. it goes off the rails and kind of the biggest way a Joe Richardson game has gone off the rails in the end.
Yeah.
It is all composed of old classic art. Think of paintings like Venus de Milo. So think about like Renaissance paintings, and before and after too, but they're all old. There's no modern art in this game. I had such a fun time.
If there is, it's a joke. It's like it's
correct.
there to be funny that there's a okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Correct. Yeah, it's just such a fun, absurd thing. It's just a piece of art in itself, and very funny. Very, very funny. Not every joke lands with me because it does veer into lowbrow.
Yeah.
But it's not all lowbrow. Some of it is just silly, goofy, funny, and that is my favorite sense of like type of humor style. So yeah, it made my top 10 for sure. It's a great job, and I recommend it.
Yeah, I loved it. It didn't make my top 10, but it if you hadn't had it on your top 10, it would have been in my
Okay.
It would have been in my runner-ups.
Got it.
You know what I love about that game?
What? You can slap people.
That you can slap anybody you want.
Yeah.
And if you right click at any point, you do a backflip.
You do a little hop, a little backflip. Didn't I tell you that? You didn't. I don't think you knew until I told you.
And there's no reason for it.
No, you just do a little flippy flip. It's hilarious.
Oh God. Okay. My next game is Duck Detective: The Secret Salami.
Oh, that game, man. That game was great.
I have a feeling this is going to be an overlap. I have a feeling this is going to come up again on this list. So I'll just talk about it briefly because we did talk about it on a previous episode too.
Yeah, we have a whole dedicated episode to Duck Detective. So I think when we come across those games, we're not going to explain too much.
Yeah, check out episode 18 for our deeper opinions on Duck Detective. But it's like it's taking this Case of the Golden Idol formula and just making it goofy as fuck. It's by Happy Broccoli Games. It was released in May. There also is a dedicated, if you right click, I think at any point you just quack.
You can honk,
like
a little honk,
you just
honk
quack all the time, and you're just like these little cute little sticker animals toddling around these little isometric scenes and trying to solve a mystery of who smuggled the salami. It's very, very cute and funny.
It's very cute, yeah.
So that's my, I think, number 9.
Nice. What's
yours? What's your next?
My next, let me consult our notes here. Okay, I just want to make sure that this is all going to plan. So friend of the show, Paul Corman, he developed a little game called Phantom Fellows, and I had to put that on my top 10. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it aesthetically. I enjoyed the humor very, very, very much. It definitely, I could just tell it was a labor of love, and not just a labor of love that you appreciated for being such, but also a genuinely good game, a very good quality game. And we did talk about that with Paul on, I don't know if you have our list up, Matt, but we have a dedicated episode to talking to Paul and to talking about Phantom Fellows, and you guys should go check that out.
Yeah, that was episode 32, where we talked with Paul about the King's Quest for the Perils of Rosella, but we do talk about Phantom Fellows a bit before that.
Yeah, there's also a full review on my channel, so if you want to hear me babble for 15 minutes about an adventure game, it is there.
This game, you will look at it and it will remind you a lot of Darkside Detective, and that's not an unfair comparison, but it is a very, very different game.
Yeah, or like The Last Door, but again, very different game.
Okay, my next one is going to be Locomotive.
Nice.
Which we talked a little bit about on the Wrath of the Gods episode. Here's the only game that hit my top 10 that I haven't beaten yet.
Yeah, same.
I got a good ways into it, and I was just like, this game is just really hitting on all fronts. It's got
Yeah.
good puzzles, it's got good animation, it's got good voice acting, it is funny. It reminds me this gets said so often, but I don't think it has ever been as true as it in this scenario. It's like a lost LucasArts game.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to keep saying that every time we find like a retro adventure game, so I try to wait to like see if that if
Yeah.
that is how I feel. But I genuinely agree. It does feel like
Yeah.
that. It's very accurate to that style and time.
I'll say I think I say a lot. This game has a lot of LucasArts inspiration, or this game is LucasArts style.
Yeah.
But it is rare for me to say this is like a lost LucasArts game.
Yeah, same.
And
Yeah.
I think this one I think fits that bill. It's by Robust Games, and it's from November.
Oh, excellent.
All right, what's your next one?
It was my turn. So it didn't crack my top 5, but it did crack my top 10, and that's Prim. Prim to me, it was a long time coming. It was in development for a very long time, and it certainly speaks to me as that girl who loves goth things, that loves Tim Burton art, that loves Terry Pratchett. I aside from maybe some of the voice acting perhaps being a little grating, I thought it was such a solid game. It really felt like a grand adventure to me. And I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate it as just an amazing illustrated work of art. It looks hand-drawn. It's lovely. I really enjoyed Prim, and I hope that it gets more credit along the line.
Yeah, this didn't make my top 10, but I definitely enjoyed it. It's by Common Colors. It was released in fittingly released in October, and we talk about it in a previous episode too. But it's sort of we talk about it in episode 36. It's sort of, it's the daughter of death. She doesn't want to be in hell, and then she goes on a little adventure.
Yeah,
in hell.
it's great.
Or in limbo,
I love it.
I guess. And it's got really good point and click puzzles. I think it introduces a lot of interesting stuff that it doesn't quite, fulfill, but it has a lot. Like there's a lot to love in that game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that's cute and a lot that's funny.
Agreed.
And the art style is great. Okay, so my next game, and I think this is what my number 7 is Crow Country. I talked about this a little bit, I think a couple of episodes ago, but I didn't get too much into it. It's by SFB Games. It was released in May. And SFB Games, by the way, SFB Games did Tangle Tower.
You mention that every time.
Grimoire games, because it's so strange. It's so strange that they also released this. This is a like throwback to Resident Evil, and kind of also graphically similar to say Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
It's got this it's like this low res polygonal like PS1 art.
Yeah.
And you're basically facing like a zombie outbreak in an abandoned theme park.
Yeah.
And solving a lot of those Resident Evil style puzzles, where you have to, you go do something puzzly and you get the key and then you take it to a place. But it's so much. The puzzles are a lot better than say in Resident Evil, where you're just like,
oh yeah,
putting dog statues in the right order. And the story is very intriguing too. You don't know why you're there. You don't know what your goal is. It has tank controls and combat, but a little more, I guess, also a little better than like Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So I think, it's not going to appeal to every adventure gamer, but if you don't mind pointing and shooting, give Crow Country a try. It was really, really impressive. Also, it's a period piece from 1990.
Nice.
So
We love that. I love a
all right,
period piece.
what's your next
Speaking
game?
of a period piece, my
Ooh.
last, before we get to top 5, my last game is An English Haunting, which is by Postmodern Adventures. They did Nightmare Frames. We have a dedicated episode to both English Haunting and Nightmare Frames that I would
Yes.
highly recommend that you give a listen to. I was so excited for English Haunting. It is beautiful. I was just enamored with how that game looked and how it functioned. And it didn't make top 5 simply because it didn't wow me as much as other adventure games did. But my God, the quality is there.
Yeah.
I highly recommend both of those games. Please play them. And what's really impressive to me is they're both so different. Like they're so different. Like one is, Victorian London, and the other one is 80s podunk towns and like Hollywood, and they're so different. It's very impressive. Please go play them.
It takes you all over the place, kind of like Nightmare Frames does, where you start in a very contained environment and then you just go everywhere.
Yeah.
And also you play as Arthur Conan Doyle for a minute.
Okay, that was a little weird.
The
I'm
author,
not gonna
is
lie.
that why it didn't hit your top 5?
Maybe. Maybe. It got a little strange, okay?
Yeah, it didn't breach my top 10, but like that, I think that only speaks to, and I'd say this about a bunch of the games that are on your top 10 and not mine, is like that only speaks to how fucking good of a year this was.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like,
and we have different tastes in adventure games.
For a game as good as An English Haunting to not make my top 10, it just means that this year was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So my number 6, before we get to top 5, and again, the 10 through 6 are loosely ordered, but it's Thank Goodness You're Here.
Yeah. Yeah, that looked very British.
This game is so fucking silly. I think the second release. They also released a free game a couple years back.
They did?
Yeah. So it's the second release by Cole Supper.
Okay.
And it's like a living cartoon. It was released back in August. And you are just a little guy with a little lemony head.
Weird little guy.
Weird little guy. You don't speak ever. And you just arrive in a town. The only verb you have is slap. And no, you have 2. Slap and jump.
My God. Just like Death of the Reprobate.
But you don't have inventory, you can't talk to people.
Okay.
If you go up to a person and you want to talk to them, you slap them and then and then sometimes they'll talk to you and tell you, they'll say, "Oh, thank goodness you're here," and then they'll give you a little mission. And it's so stupid and so funny. The other fucking thing that's also hilarious about it is you are a little guy in any scene. So if you are on a city street, you're about waist height to everybody, or knee height.
Yeah.
You're like just like a short guy.
You're like literally a weird little guy.
Mm-hmm. But if you are in a scene that is on a kitchen table, you are the size of you're the size of a sugar bowl. You like, so every single scene you change size, and it's always fucking so funny. Like, oh, okay, now I'm microscopic. It's just full of sight gags and slapsticky gags, and like, you keep wandering around, you walk back and forth across the same places a lot, and things will change as you walk past. Like, the game knows you're gonna walk past this same area.
That's funny.
7 different times. So every time you walk past, the story of the people you walk past like evolves. And
that's great.
Just like the joke continues.
Yeah.
Just for one random example is there's a guy who there's this fence that you pass that has a hole in it, and there's a man who sticks his eye in the hole, and he talks to you, and he's like, hey, would you like a sausage? And then he just starts shoves a sausage through the hole in the fence, and he keeps shoving it until it falls, and he's like, oh, I dropped my sausage, don't worry, I have another one here. And he just keeps shoving more and more sausages through the fence. And so sometimes when you pass, he doesn't talk to you, and sometimes he's there, you see his little eye, and he starts shoving sausages through, and there's this pile of sausages starts to grow beneath the hole.
It's like absurdist humor. That's funny.
It's very absurd. It's very funny. It's called Thank Goodness You're Here.
Nice.
All right. Now here's the main event. Roses.
We're here. This is our top 5. This is
top 5 of the entire
out of all
year.
the adventure games that came out. These are the special ones.
Well, the ones we played.
No, they're special.
Oh, okay, you're right.
These are special ones, Matt.
Yes, you're right. They're very special. I think they're all special.
All right. Should we start with me?
Yeah, I want to. So bad.
So mine may be a little controversial because it's not finished and it's only half of an adventure game, but it's Fields of Mystria. I really liked that game, and it is not done yet. It is kind of a Stardew Valley-esque game, but it's got enough changes to have, its own identity. I got very into the characters. You know why I liked it? Huh. It's the only Stardew kind of inspired game that I really got into after Stardew. It's the only one that captured my attention in that same way. And for that, it is my number 5.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it did capture my attention in the way that no other Stardew has. It's still a little unfinished, and it gets, because of that, in my opinion, it gets a little boring.
Sure.
When you go, by the time I got to like winter, I was kind of like, all right, I think I've seen pretty much most of what this game had to offer. And then they've had one update since then, and I still felt that way. So
yeah, I'm going to wait until it's done. But know that when we say it's not fully finished, I still put 40 hours into this game, and that's why it's on my top 5. I got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I think I have just under 30 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting shit there, and I think after it's all updated and done, I think it's going to be a really special.
I do too.
And everyone's fucking hot as hell.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Why do you think I'm playing it?
It's not even that horny of a game, but it's also a really horny game.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of men with their shirts off and bulging muscles, and ladies with the deepest cleavage you've ever seen. Okay, my number 5 is, this isn't going to be a surprise. It is
Believe in you.
Sorry, I got confused because we're using such similar colors.
I
was like, Fields of Mystery. Oh wait, no. No, my number 5 is Crimson Diamond.
Nice.
This is by Julia Minamata, and it is her, at least so far, it's her opus. It is truly just like a masterpiece of game making, and it is a EGA text parser mystery. It was released back in August. We've talked about it, I think, many times on this podcast. We talked about it a lot on episodes 26 and 27, and because we were playing it right after it came out, I think we were both trying to savor it a little bit. But it's just really good. It's really pretty. It's a really fun mystery, and I think you all know our feelings on it by now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've done 2 videos on Crimson Diamond.
I have a feeling we'll be talking about it again.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So what's your number? So that's my number 5. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is Duck Detective.
Oh,
it did crack my top 5.
Yeah.
Just because it was so delightful. I hadn't been that delighted since maybe Untitled Goose Game. It's that kind of delighted. You know what I mean? Just like, this is shockingly adorable for what it is. You would think when, upon looking at it, you would think that it's juvenile or maybe for younger people. I would not say that. I would say it's for the adult that wants to tap into maybe their silly younger side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had mentioned it already, and we've talked about it in depth on this channel. It's just so weird and delightful, and the quality of voice acting is above and beyond.
Oh, so good.
So good.
I do want to say, I think a kid would get something out of this game.
Oh,
yeah,
I do too.
I don't think it is for kids in any way. But yeah, the voice acting is so great.
Yeah, it is above and beyond.
Brian David Gilbert does a voice in this game.
Yeah.
Which I didn't pick up on, but his character is really, really funny.
His character is adorable. Adorable. And what episode, so we can recommend if people are interested, did we do Duck Detective?
Oh, yeah, we did a deep dive. It was episode 18.
Okay, cool. So,
oh my God, that was the episode we talked about Duck Detective and Harvester.
Oh, well. Man, are you guys in for a treat?
What a fucking funny. That's so funny that we did that.
That's funny. But yes, Duck Detective, that's number 4. I really love it, and I can't wait to see what else the devs put out. The style is so fun.
My number 4 is Botany Manor.
Ugh.
You can't make that noise. It's so good.
All right, fine.
what it is it's like, I mean, if you look at the art, it's like 3D. It's kind of like that glowing, jewel toned, Hallmark-esque 3D. You know what? The art reminds me a little bit of like, that game that I love so much.
Myst?
No, I don't love Myst so much.
You pretty much love Myst.
The Witness. It reminds me of The Witness.
We got there. That's the pipeline, honestly.
It's by Balloon Studios. It was released in April. We talked about the demo on our a second episode or some shit like that.
Yeah, really early on.
Really early on. And then I talk about it later on. I don't know which episode, but you could go back and check it out. But what it is it is like atmospheric puzzles and logic puzzles and deductive puzzles that are built around growing plants. So you'll find a seed and I think it's been a little bit, but I think you might know what the name of the seed is from the moment you pick it up. But then you go around reading journals and looking at charts and putting together what the ideal grow conditions for this plant is. And they're magical, right? Like it's like, oh, this plant will grow when this plant grows in thunderstorms during the flashes of lightning. So then you want to put it in soil and water it and then expose it to a flash bulb.
Yeah.
That you have to create by mixing the right types of flash powder.
Yeah.
That you find on a note somewhere. You have to put all these clues together, and then once you hit it with the flash bulb or the flash powder, it just suddenly grows. And there's a lot of stuff like that in the game that you're just walking around sort of deductively piecing together these really interesting puzzles to make these beautiful little flowers grow.
Aww.
And it's great. It was really...
It sounds relaxing. I did try it for a hot minute and gave up.
I was surprised by just how good and fun and unique some of these puzzles were. The only thing I said this as a criticism at the time, and I feel the same way now, is because you're only usually dealing with 1 or 2 seeds at a time, every clue you pick up relates to this thing. So it's not that deductive.
Okay. I mean, some people may like that and feel less stressed out by that mechanic.
You're probably right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's probably why they do it. But I think I might have been
Yeah.
happier if I was like, if I really had to think, okay, what seed does this clue
Yeah.
relate to?
Yeah.
Which that really wasn't a big part of the puzzles. You knew which seed it related to. You just had to figure out why it was useful.
Yeah.
So that's Botany Manor. That was my number 4. What's your number 3?
3. Yeah. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to try not to get too detailed because we have a reason for that we might mention? Question mark?
Yeah, I think let's do
Okay.
it. Let's do it.
So my number 3 is Locomotive. And I don't want to say too much about it because we are going to be doing a deep dive on this game. But here's a few reasons why. Here's a few reasons why I really liked it. For me, it ticks so many boxes, man. Like, this is a Roses game. This is a mystery style kind of the art gets a little bit art deco, but it's also like Matt said earlier, your lost LucasArts game. And it really does feel that way. It feels like I'm playing a game from 1994 or 95 in the best way possible. It's still, I want to make this clear, it has its own identity. It is not stealing anything or overly homage to LucasArts, but it hits that itch. You know what I mean? And it's just, man, there's just something atmospheric about it that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So I have not finished it yet. I did start streaming it and playing a little bit on my own, and I just really love it. First of all, I like trains, and I think trains are great for adventure games. It's not like, which is interesting.
It's a great setting for an adventure game. Yeah,
it is. And not every part takes place on a train necessarily. Like if you saw the part I streamed, it's not on the train yet. But I think trains are great for adventure games, especially murder mystery, very Agatha Christie. And yeah, I wasn't sure if that would even be my number 1. It's not, because I don't think I could put a number 1 for a game that I haven't finished yet.
Yeah.
But just the fact that it impressed me that much, and the quality was so high, and it hit every mark, I had to put it pretty high up. So I think we should, hear me out, I think we should do something interesting for our next thing, because by happenstance, your number 3 is my number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet. Hey, everybody at home, I want you guys to just take a second and think, what could be so high? This is the last one we have. Well, no, we have one more in common. Your number 1 is one I've already said. But what is something that both of us would put on this list and both put this high?
High. Like, it's my number 2. Keep in mind, it's Matt's number 3. So it's very high.
So let's go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Rise of the Golden Idol.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a joke there. I was gonna say, like, Leisure Suit Larry 8.
I should have given you another. You needed another second.
But no, you're correct. Yours is number 3. Mine is number 2. Rise of the Golden Idol. Love it.
Holy
I had
shit.
not. What now?
I said, holy shit, it's good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought something went wrong over there. Sometimes I don't know if a holy shit is good or if a holy shit is bad.
Holy shit, my microphone's been off this whole time.
Holy shit, I gave $14,000 to Hanson Swansen.
Oh, Hanson Swansen. Hanson Swansen sounds like the name of a character in Rise of the Golden Idol.
So, interestingly, I played this game before Case of the Golden Idol, which is the devs' first game. But I did end up completing both because we have a dedicated episode. I think it's one of our more recent episodes that we did, right?
Yes.
We have so many episodes. I don't
we've got a lot. Yeah, we did Case and Rise on episode 39, so go check that out.
Yeah, that was only maybe like a month, 2 months ago. Yeah, really blown away by Rise of the Golden Idol. I love the art. I know that maybe not everyone liked it. I really
But
liked
they're wrong.
I liked it. Yeah, they're
But
wrong. They're wrong.
They're wrong. Okay.
Oh
I
boy.
don't think the art in Rise is as good as the art in Case. I'll
Okay.
say it.
Okay.
I liked the old, the slightly more simplistic pixely style. I think the art in Rise is like, I think it was capitulating a little bit to the people who complained about the rudimentary, what they thought, what they felt was
What they
rudimentary.
thought, yeah. Well, it looked, I think even more so, Case looked a little unsettling to people. It kind of like in the way that Hobbs Barrow looked a little unsettling to people. I think maybe they just wanted to smooth it out a little bit. But it still has that character design. Clearly, they have this. I'm sorry, what is the company that did these?
So it's Color Gray Games.
Games
is the developer. The publisher's PlayStack. By the way,
they
it was
have
released in November.
Yeah, they have their own style, and so no matter whether it's smoothed out or whether it's pixelated, it still retains that that interesting stylized caricature and their backgrounds. So I like the art. It's one of the hardest deduction games I've ever played. Would you agree?
Yeah, I thought Case was a little harder than Rise. But yes, definitely they are both incredibly difficult.
Very difficult. Very, very difficult.
But 100% doable, right? Like if you are intimidated to play them because you're like, oh, I'm not smart enough to get them. It's not like Myst where you're just going to be staring at it forever and maybe never solving it. It is you will get it eventually.
Yeah.
There's
but
enough,
I will say though,
everything is there and right in front of you, and it's all so contained. That you know, if you haven't figured it out, you know exactly where to look. Just keep looking. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a little asterisk on that because even you're right, it is there, and you want that in a mystery game. You want that in a mystery anything.
Yeah.
So you don't want things to happen off screen. For example, Murder, She Wrote does this all the time. Jessica finds a fucking button off screen. And, some of it is for a whodunit. You want to be able to figure it out yourself. You don't want things to happen off screen. Everything you need is in the case of the Golden Idol. But my asterisk would be that there's a lot. There's a lot of those things. So it's a lot of parsing through things. So you can find it, but just know that it can be a little bit of an information overload. I say that, and it's still my number 2. So
I know. Well, I think a good strategy for that, right, is when you are playing one of these games, take breaks, right? Like, go find all the information so that your word bank is full.
Yeah.
And you have like the basics of the situation. Go get a snack or turn it off and come play it tomorrow. And when you come back, it won't be an information overload because you already know the basics of the situation and you don't have to go digging, and you can just, and then focus on a sentence at a time. Right. And it's hard. It stretches your brain, but it's all there. So you will get it if you look at it and think about it enough. It'll come.
Yeah. But actually, we're going to toss it right back to you, Matt, because that was my number 2. So that was your number 3, my number 2, Rise of the Golden Idol. So we're now on your number 2 adventure game.
This is my number 2, and I haven't really talked about it on this show, and there's a reason, and it's because I have owed Adventure Game Hotspot a review of this game for 6 months.
6 months.
About 6 months I've owed them a review of this game and just didn't, because, and I'll explain why a little bit. This game, I had some this is not a pun. I had some resistance to. I started playing it. It is very dense story-wise. It is it's one of those games that throws you into such a complicated world and you're just like, what the fuck does any of this mean? I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even understand why they're calling me this name. Like, I am so I don't know where I am. I don't know whether it is 1990 or the year 3000 or the year -5. Like, I don't know what is happening. It's a sci-fi adventure, this very high concept. And so I had some resistance. So when I first started playing it, I got really overwhelmed really quick, and I put it away for months. And then eventually, maybe 4 months later, I picked it back up again, and it took me a while to beat. It's also kind of, it's not that long again. I think it took me 10 hours, but it's, again, it's still dense.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to play for more than like an hour at a time.
Oh,
And
wow.
then there's so much to think about. So while I'm writing this review, I wanted to do it justice. So the game I'm talking about is by Sunset Visitor. It was released in May of last year, of 2024. It's called 1000x or 1000 times resist. Or another way to say it is just 1000 resist.
Okay.
You play a character called Watcher, and you basically start the game with a murder. You murder somebody that you call the All-Mother, and you say a bunch of strange stuff to her, stuff that doesn't seem to make much sense, like red to blue. These phrases that you repeat throughout the game over and over, but they have really like esoteric meanings. And there's things that they say, like the word hecky, which isn't a real word.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just like, I don't know. Hair to hair is another one of these phrases. You're like, I don't even know what this dialogue is.
Yeah.
And then you kind of flash back and you learn bit by bit who Watcher is, who All-Mother is, why all the characters look kind of the same, why everybody's wearing a mask, why you're locked in this strange sci-fi futuristic place where there are only women, and all the women, again, kind of look the same. There's just so many concepts, and as you put it together, and there's not a lot of gameplay, right? Like, most of it is walking up and talking to people. And then there's some scenes where you sort of like, you target a thing and then you launch yourself from thing to thing. Like, that's the most that it is gameplay wise. But you're basically just running around this like neon futuristic thing, just talking to people, and it unveils this really deep textured story about cultural identity and the sins of our parents, and the sins and the responsibilities of being a child to parents, and the ways trauma gets passed down. It talks a lot about diaspora and immigrant communities, and what your identity is when you are a child of immigrants trying to adapt to a new culture. And also, it's about the pandemic. It's also about fascism and how fascism rises, and how all sorts of different political systems are built around, like, if you've ever heard the phrase "the political is personal and the personal is political," this game dives into that concept so deep. All right, that is very overwhelming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hang on a second, because like this is your number 2.
Yeah.
So you loved this game for this year.
Yeah.
However, if you just kind of explained everything that's going on, and it sounds so overwhelming. So what would you say is the driving factor to play the game? Like, what's rewarding about it?
If you like to pick up a piece of literature and really feel something, right? You'll get something out of this game.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Will this game make people feel unintelligent? And when I ask that, you know what I'm asking. There are certain games and certain media that I think goes overboard, and it doesn't consider accessibility. What is your opinion on that? Because it is covering a lot of deep topics.
I'll say this. By the time you get to the end of this game, you will understand, and you will have
Okay.
gotten something from it, no matter your level of ability to analyze text.
Yeah, or like experience with these topics, let's
Mhm.
say. Yeah.
Correct. You will get something from it.
Great.
Again, you will at least get that personal is political, political is personal idea, and you'll get the idea of the concepts of family that it's talking about. I played this game as I was taking a literature course
Oh.
and an anthropology course, right? Like I was embroiled in literary analysis and social sciences as I was playing this game. So my my takeaways were maybe informed by that.
Yeah.
And even then, I didn't grasp the depth of the diaspora dialogue until I read other people's analysis of it.
Yeah.
So it is a sort of thing, you're not going to pick it all up. Maybe you will now that you've heard me review it, right? And now you'll be looking for those things. But there are lots of themes and ideas you're not going to pick up just playing the game because unless you're an expert at literary analysis, which I'm not, right?
Yeah.
But it is the sort of game you will get something out of it, and it will be moving, and afterwards it will be extra rewarding to go seek out people's analysis of this game and watch them, and you'll just be like, oh, holy shit, right? Like this game is just full of holy shit. The last thing I'll say about the game, because I know I've been talking about it for a long time, is it's just so textured. The last thing I'll say about this game is that it goes to places you would not fucking expect. This is a game that does not follow a formula, and all of a sudden you are in the middle of a scene that you just can't believe is happening. You go you're all, like as you're playing, like all of us do while we're watching all stories, we're sort of digging through a Rolodex in our head of every story we've seen before, and we're kind of like, okay, I think this person's going to betray this person. Oh, this person looks like they're about to die, or they're all going to go to war or whatever. That will not serve you here. You will be in the next chapter, and you will just be like, holy shit, I cannot believe this is happening.
That was my reaction to Final Fantasy VIII about 95% of the time I was playing it. But it sounds like this is a better thing than that.
Yeah, I mean that in the best of ways. It's never a holy shit, I can't believe this is happening. This is the stupidest shit.
Yeah.
No, it is holy shit. This is so cool.
Yeah.
That finally is where I'll leave it. And if you want an even more from me about this, check out Adventure Game Hotspot fairly soon.
I almost don't want to know more about it because you've done a good job piquing my interest because I love games. I love games like that. I love games that do make me feel something. I love long form, meaningful, poignant narratives. So I think I will check that out, actually.
You should. I think everybody should play this game. I think this is a game that, again, as far as gameplay goes, like, think about this more like reading a novel or watching a TV show. When you go to sit down to it, it's going to absorb all your attention.
Yeah.
And it's going to be overwhelming. And again, the running around is going to be a little boring.
Got it. It's a good warning there.
but yeah, if you go into it knowing that all you're going to be doing is talking to characters and finding dialogue and running around, it might be a little more palatable. And again, this story is something I think everyone should experience. It's so good. So, 1,000 times resist, 1000x resist. That's my number 2. That's crazy.
How is it not number 1? What is going
here's the
on?
Craziest thing is it's still only number 2.
Yeah,
that's how good this year was.
It's crazy. You spoke about it like so highly.
Yeah.
But we're at my number 1.
So excited.
I know. So I think people know now because I haven't mentioned it yet. So I
There's
think
somebody. One of our friends is sitting at home listening to this, going like, "Oh, she like, oh, she didn't. I guess it wasn't in her top 10."
Oh no, I hope not. I hope
No,
they
I'm
weren't
kidding.
thinking that. My number one is The Crimson Diamond by friend of the show, Julia Minamata.
Hell yeah.
I was, I'm going to go on a limb and say I was kind of worried when this game was in production. Because it is an homage to a very specific game, a very specific franchise. It takes a lot of inspiration from the Laura Bow games by Sierra. But if you watch my review, and I really stand by this game, it makes choices that veer from the Laura Bow games, which I thought was very, very smart because it gives you this expectation. I guess I can get into a little bit of spoiler territory here.
Absolutely.
So in the Laura Bow games, some of the novelty, right, of those games is finding suspects dead. Everyone's a suspect, right, until you find them dead. And the way you find them become increasingly more absurd. They're more serious in the Colonel's Bequest. Dagger of Amon-Ra is just absolutely off the balls, absurd. Death scenes and death screens. And you would think that because it's such a big novel part of those games that Julia would follow that, but she actually doesn't. And it threw me. I'm like, oh, it's not doing that. This is not one of those games that's just going to kill everyone. And you find the bodies later or something, and I thought that was really smart. Because it gives the game its own identity. It gave me something to look forward to. And I think it became a very different game by the end. So while yes, it is inspired by some of those older games, particularly, the Colonel's Bequest, it's really, really strong. Just as its own game, you do not need to play the Laura Bow games to enjoy this game. You might enjoy it more if you love Agatha Christie and if you love a really fun whodunit. And honestly, I give it so many props for going text parser. That is not the most popular mechanic ever in any game. It's just not. It was once upon a time. It is not right now,
dude. And to make it to so many like AAA publications best game of the year list with a
the text
parser
yeah,
is such a wild achievement. Yeah.
It makes sense. I liked using. I mean, listen, guys, I've always liked using the text parser. I love those kind of games. I really do. They got kind of crappy at some point, but it's really smart. It kind of marries research with adventure game, kind of in the way that Jane Jensen would write an adventure game. She always puts like history and facts and science with her games.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of education in the Crimson Diamond with studying minerals, and it's just I just loved it so much, and I loved solving these puzzles because while they were not the most difficult puzzles I've ever done, I wouldn't say they were easy either. I think the only reason that I had an easy time doing it is because I did grow up on absurd adventure games. So I'm over here thinking about the most wild ways to accomplish something. I tried the easy ways first, but I'm not shy about like throwing the cheese in the machine. I'll do that all day long.
Yeah.
So, it was just so good. It looks amazing. It's not, by some people's standards, EGA games of the past, they're beautiful, but they might look a little strange to people now. Kind of similarly to what I was saying about Case of the Golden Idol. It's so pixely that it can look a little strange to people. This is a cleaned up type of EGA for me. And it's good. It's cozy. It's a labor of love that has the love and the quality at the same time. I love mysteries. I love text parser games. It is my number one. And I want to mention this too. I was going back and forth between Rise of the Golden Idol and the Crimson Diamond.
Yeah.
And as we spoke, I don't know if you noticed, I changed it. Because I realized that I just, even though I love Rise of the Golden Idol, that's why it's at number 2. I realized that I definitely had some challenges with the Rise that were frustrating me. So as an experience, I had to put Crimson Diamond as number 1 because I started remembering as we spoke the delight I felt when I was playing it. So that's a shout out to Julia for creating my game of the year.
Yeah,
which is the Crimson Diamond.
Now I have a question. Do you think? I know you go back to the Laura Bow games.
I do,
regularly. So
Yeah.
these are games that you play, if not every year, every couple years.
Yeah.
Do you think Crimson Diamond will do that? Do you think you will go back to it?
Yeah, I do.
Over and over? Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I do think I definitely will. I don't know if I can say that I'll go back to it as much as I do the other Laura Bow games, but that is only because I have nostalgia attached to those games. I don't necessarily have nostalgia attached to Crimson Diamond yet. So,
Right.
So I do go back to the Laura Bow games because I think we can both agree that they're not the strongest games in the Sierra catalog. So, some of that is definitely revisiting my childhood, revisiting nostalgia. But yeah, I would say in another year, I'll probably play Crimson Diamond again. I'll probably stream it. And I really, really like it. I'm really glad that it is what it is. So
my other question is, would you say, do you think this, is it reductive to say that it improves on the formula of Laura Bow?
I don't think it's reductive. I think it's just true.
Okay.
Because that's what we kind of strive for in the arts is we kind of see what things were and where we can make things more accessible, where we can make things easier, where we can make things more enjoyable. And that's just how it is in the arts, especially when you're doing an art that involves technology that keeps growing. So I don't think it's reductive to say that it improved upon those mechanics. I just think it's true, and that's a good thing. And it makes me want people to get into this kind of adventure game with the text parser because it is an improvement. And I hope, and it's a way for more people to enjoy it.
It has a thesis, like not all pieces of art, it's clear what the thesis is, but this one, it is clear what she was trying to say about what she was trying to say in the medium. Which, great game.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia.
And
Julia's a pal of mine too, so she's really great.
Thank you, Julia, for making a great game for us to play.
For me. I mean, for us.
Sorry. For us to play. Okay.
Okay,
so.
well, I am dying for you after talking about 1,000 Times Resist. I don't know what could possibly top that, but please, this is now Matt's number 1 game of the year, I guess we could call it, right?
Yes, this is my game of the year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is, if anybody has followed me on the internet, if anyone follows my criticism, my whatever, my career as a game critic. That's such a weird, it's not a career. I don't make any money. What am I talking about?
It's a really involved hobby.
If anyone follows me as a game critic, they know what this is going to be. I've talked about it several times this year. It was the debut game. I believe it took him, it was the work of one guy, kind of like yours, your number 1, was the work of Julia Minamano. This was a work by a guy named Billy Basso. He worked on it for, I think, 9 years.
Great name.
It is a good name.
Seriously.
It is a Metroidvania, but in this, I heard it referred to as a Metroidbrania in this way. Like, it's a Metroidvania where there's not combat. You're not fighting things.
Right.
You are just navigating an environment and uncovering secrets. And some of those secrets have been right in front of you the whole time. It's Animal Well, is what it is.
And like, I feel like I knew that was going to happen because we talked about this on a non-professional call for a really long time. You loved that game.
This game was so good and so unexpected. I think some people knew that a game called Animal Well was coming out. I had no idea. And I love a Metroidvania, but I also love a puzzle game. And you know, it's interesting that it came out around the same time as Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, because both of them are just built around this idea of a world just chock full of secrets. And you don't need to find all of them if you don't want.
Yeah.
You can get through Animal Well. There's a bunch of levels, right? Like, first there's the Metroidvania level where you are a little blob and you're going around this dark fluorescent cavern full of animals and animal pictures, and you're collecting toys, right? Like, your inventory, instead of getting a double jump, you get a bubble wand where you can jump on the bubble. Instead of getting a air dash, you get a frisbee. I don't want to give anything away.
I know.
I don't want to explain how you use all these items, but you get a frisbee, you get a yo-yo, you get little firecrackers. These basically children's toys, and then you end up using them in such interesting ways to reach platforms or hit buttons or cross chasms. And then, so you do that, you get through the game, and then you end up running away from like a big baddie at the end. But somewhere as you go, you're going to see a bunch of things. You're going to see you're going to randomly collect an egg, and it's going to have been hidden in a weird way. You're going to be like, oh, that was interesting. I had to do like an extra special thing to get that egg. And then you realize there's a room where your eggs are displayed, and there's so many of these fucking eggs. There's so many blank spaces. So then you start going around this world looking for these eggs. And as you're looking for these eggs, you start to notice other things. Like, why is this background have a certain pattern in it? Or why, oh God, I'm trying to think of, why does this grass... Look, this is a very big spoiler for a puzzle. So,
oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. I want to play this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is one of the puzzles that most people aren't going to get, and I didn't get until I read about it.
Maybe I do want to know. Go on.
Why does this grass, and if you don't want to know, skip ahead 5 seconds. Why does this grass look like a barcode? And you end up like having to use maybe even real world resources to, okay, all right. So I got through, I beat the game. I got all the stuff. I found the eggs, and then there's another ending waiting for you that most 99.9999% of people aren't going to see, because it involves things like, you get a calculator, or you get a special tool that if you skip to the 5 seconds, you won't know what it is, but you can just download one of those on your phone and find out, and do the thing to the thing and get a clue. And then you find these, and I'll say what they are, because this isn't that big of a secret. Then you're finding bunnies at the end.
Right. I've seen some of those screenshots. I'm like, oh, cute.
And one of them, I think you need 24 different people, something like that, because every game has a randomized clue in it. So you need to find 24 different people, all with different clues. You can't solve it on your own.
Wow, wild.
Yeah, it's just a crazy game. And on top of that, like, again, you're using like a frisbee, and you think it works in one way, And then maybe by accident, or maybe you just think about it real hard and you're like, oh, I wonder if I can do it this with it.
Yeah.
And you find out the Frisbee has another use and maybe even a third use. Again, these are secrets that are just in front of you the entire game. You've been carrying this, say, yo-yo around for hours. And now all of a sudden, you've been able to do this with the yo-yo on basically every screen and you didn't know it? It's just it's mind-blowing what this game accomplishes, and that it can do that so successfully.
Yeah.
How
many hours have you put into it? I'm just curious.
I've put 19 hours into Animal Well. I beat the game at around, I think, 11 hours.
Okay, thanks.
I collected all the eggs at around 16 hours. And I've spent about 3 hours making 0 progress on the end game.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I want to know is because, you do it is an in-depth game. It's obviously extremely detailed and clever. So I want to get a feel for how long it's going to take me to beat this,
Yeah.
I don't want to say like, oh, I just don't have time for any games. I'm going to carve out time when I can for leisure. But it's also good to know, how long you may need to put into, a very involved game.
I put it up there with like The Witness in like a game that is going to stretch your brain out.
Yeah.
And that you will get if you put enough effort. You will figure it out if you put enough effort and into it. Yeah. And time. It's Animal Well is just really, really great. And again, I love a Metroidvania anyway. Another game that I would compare this to is probably like Outer Wilds.
Yeah, I think you remember telling me that, and I'm like, well, I haven't played that either, so no frame of reference.
It's just everything is there in front of you, and you just all you need is the knowledge.
Yeah.
To do it, right? Again, there are secrets hiding in the very first screen of Animal Well. And even hearing this, if you're like, oh, that's a spoiler, now when I get to the first screen, I'm just going to search everywhere in that first room. Yeah. You're not going to get it. It's going to be it's going to be hour 10 or hour 12 before you're able to figure out what the secret in the first room is, right?
Yeah.
Which is just that's how crazy this game is.
Yeah.
I loved it. Really great. Animal Well, my game of the year.
Oh, that's amazing. I think we have that's so interesting. We have very different games of the year. And I think that's awesome and shows our versatility when it comes to likes and adventure games. And I hope it inspired people to try out some of these games if you haven't already.
Me too. Yeah, it was a great year for games, and this doesn't even cover all of them. So
oh no, certainly not. There were too many. To be frank, I cannot keep up. It's bad.
Yeah, I have honorable mentions. I'm just not going to get. We don't have time to. We
don't have time for them. But you know what? Let's mention some. We are going to be speaking pretty soon about games we're looking forward to, and I think we could go over some honorable mentions in that episode.
Oh, of other games that were great in 2024.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but oh man, games I'm looking forward to in 2025 is almost as long of a list though.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, I mean a lot of
No, I hear you. I hear you.
Well, Roses, thanks for talking about the best games of the year with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for compiling this list and reflecting back on our episodes. And this podcast has had a really good year, and I'm really proud of all the episodes that we've put out.
Yeah, I'm proud of it too. I think I have a lot of fun doing this podcast. I hope you guys all have a lot of fun listening to it. It's a fun excuse to get to hang out with my pal Roses and talk about video games every week.
To be quite honest with you, I think that was like one of our main motivations.
Yeah.
Look, we have no time for friends. How do we like cleverly sneak it in there?
I used to talk about this being in comedy for so long is
Yeah.
like, if you don't make a project with people, you don't hang out with them.
I know, it's so hard. It's so difficult to schedule with people. And we are long distance friends. Like, we know each
Mhm.
other in real life. We've met in real life, but we are long distance friends, and that's hard. It's hard for
Yeah.
real life friends, on top of having like online friends. So it's like we sneakily, cleverly made a project instead. Now we have to talk to each other.
Now we have to talk every week. Fuck. No,
until
it's
we're
great.
75.
Do you remember how to get the water to go on Monkey Island too?
Oh, I don't know. Are you sure that's Monkey Island? That sounds like a different
I
game.
need a monkey wrench, but all I have is a monkey.
Matt, the pun. Oh, I get so mad in my older years.
I don't get it.
I'm playing
Listen.
Stardew Valley again.
Oh, won't that be a great thing? As adventure game fans, when we get to like our 80s, right, we will start to forget
Oh, thank God.
some of the puzzles and stories, and then be able to play all these games brand new.
Yep, that's where we're gonna be bugging each other from our deathbeds.
Can't
Like,
wait.
look, I know I'm in the hospital, but how do I play Rise of the Golden Idol?
How do I get past Guido and Flap with the manuscript?
Matt, I hate that game. Hang up. I still hate that game. I'm 90.
So we are part of the Adventure Game Hotspot Network. you can check us out there, and they have a lot of other cool people doing cool stuff and cool reviews. Again, Jack, if you're listening, I'm so sorry.
Oh God.
You will get your 1,000 times resist reviews soon.
Don't fire him.
You can't fire me. You don't pay me.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But also, you can check us out on Instagram at Savior Game Podcast.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
And you can email us, mattandroses@gmail.com. Do we have anything else to tell people?
I do have one important thing to say, but before I say that very, very important thingy, also, I did cover a few of these games that we mentioned on my channel. So if you want even more talking, which is incredible if you do, please go to my channel. You know it. You know my name. Pushing Up Roses on YouTube. I think my last game... what was my last game review, Matt? Matt, what was it?
For whatever reason, I thought you were going to do a last name reveal. I think my last name is...
That's a whole different podcast. I think it was Prim.
Wait, didn't you... I don't know.
Who even knows? I don't know my own work. I'm an artist. But there is a Prim review, and you should go check it out.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up.
That's a wrap.
And when a piece of art is this long, like a podcast, right?
Uh-huh.
And I do think podcasts is art.
I mean, that when it's that long, then obviously it's suffer. Podcast is suffer.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Bum 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 bum. Bum.